Okay guys, I'm gonna start by doing something different today. I don't normally do these sort of videos, but I was on Twitter the other day and I saw that Victorious was trending again because someone decided to state an opinion that a certain select group of characters were the ones carrying the show, and I thought that was quite interesting but also very weird due to the character that they said was in the top 3. But anyways, this is gonna be a completely unfiltered sort of video. I decided to go on tier maker and decide to have my own tier based rank list because my opinion is obviously far more superior than many. So yeah, I decided to do it a bit differently. Instead of just ranking the characters on good, bad, mid, I decided to just do it as a list. So I decided to do it from best to worst, but I'm actually just gonna do it backwards and just go from worst to best. So yeah, let's see how that goes. Okay, so first character we have here today, I'm just gonna put them in S tier. I think we all know who's the best S tier based character. It clearly has to be Andre's grandma. So no explanations needed. She's just gonna go straight up to S tier, as she should. In fact, she should have had her own spin-off. Who is Sam and Cat anyway? Okay, then the next character, we're gonna put them at the bottom. And I've been meaning to do this for a long time, but it's gonna have to be baby Beck. Now, don't get me wrong, Beck wasn't a bad character by any means. He wasn't even awful in terms of his personality. He was just quite underwhelming when we compare him to everyone else. Like, he was really there because he was pretty, and that was kind of his gimmick. Like, certain things he would do, he got away with it because of his looks. But in terms of the dynamic of every other character, he just didn't really stand out much. Plus, he was always gaslighting Jade and flirting with Tori low-key. So that was a bit iffy, despite the fact that he was meant to be a good character. Like, a lot of people like to talk bad about Tori and say that she was a contradictory good character, but Beck was more toxic than Tori in my opinion. Beck doesn't get nearly as much hate as Tori does, and he does the same thing she does but worse. And Tori is way more interesting than Beck in my opinion. So Beck's not an awful character, he's just not all that. Like, if you remove the face, there's not really much you can say about Beck. So that's why he's there. And I'll admit, he does compliment Jade. So the two character dynamics does work and it is quite entertaining, but if he wasn't Jade's boyfriend, there wouldn't really be much to say about Beck. So yeah. And next we're gonna have is Rex. He is gonna be 9th place because the thing with Rex is that whilst he did have some funny moments here and there, he was really just to fuel Robbie's bullying. And the only reason why he's even above Beck is because he brought out the character of Robbie more. If you really think of Rex is kind of the embodiment of Robbie's own low self-esteem and everything Robbie wish he could be. Rex is basically Robbie's shadow. He wishes he was as confident as Rex, and he also wishes he could talk to girls or be more popular. So when looking at it from that angle, also considering that I've watched this show way too many times for my own good. Like, I watched this show when it came out and I rewatched it again, and then I rewatched it again on Netflix. So seeing the character Rex, whilst he was annoying a lot of the times, he also did sort of make me feel more sympathetic towards Robbie because, as I said, that was basically his shadow. So yeah, Rex goes in 9th place. Next character, I'm gonna put in, and this is nothing against the character, they're not a bad character per se, they just were very much sort of in the background. Like Sinjin definitely wasn't one of the main characters, but for what he was worth, he did his job quite well. Like he was able to make you feel uncomfortable but also laugh at the same time. Like he had that vibe tuned out really well. Like he was quite funny when he was on screen. Like I remember when I was younger, I used to laugh at the things that he did and the things he used to say. So he was quite funny in that respect. But because there wasn't much we could see of him, I could only place him as 8th. But this is nothing to do with the character. It's just more to do with screen time. So Sinjin overall was a solid, support character. And then we go to 7th place. And this is given to Psychowitz. Again, it's kind of the same thing. He did his teacher role really well. The only reason why it's 7 is because I'm judging this based off of the mains. And for anyone questions why I put Andre's grammar as S tier, there's no reason to argue, okay? She just is. Like, she just has the tenacity and the finesse to just accept S tier. And I want no further arguments, okay? She deserved the role. She earned it, okay? She is S tier. As I was saying, with Psychowitz, as I said, he was cool and he was definitely funny and he was a really supportive teacher. But because of, again, the support role, I just thought 7th place would be best again. So yeah, I don't really have anything negative to say about Psychowitz or Sinjin. Their characters were quite good and that's about it. So that's where I'm gonna put them as overall. And now 6th place. 6th place, I'll probably gonna have to give that to Robbie. Now Robbie's character was interesting. He was quite funny and I did feel bad for him at times. Like he was basically the Freddy or Gibby of the show at times. Like his bullying was sometimes so excessive and it was just so unwarranted. Like he got corned for just existing and it was meant for comic relief, but it also made me like him more because he was always that character that had to prove himself to everyone because he just kept getting shagged. So Robbie goes 6th place. He was funny, he was adorable at times. There were times where he was a bit creepy and invasive, like stalking people, like that was the thing. So I guess that's why he kind of got brought down to 6th because he was a bit stalkery. But other than that, overall, I think he was, again, a good character. There's not much to say about that. He was decent. Now we go to our top 5 characters. Now the top 5, I don't really have anything too bad to say about the top 5 list, but I have quite a bit to say about the characters that I'm going to place and why I'm gonna put them the way they are. But the top 5 is just basically the really great characters list, so don't be surprised if there's not too many negative things I'm gonna say because there just isn't. So number 5, I'm gonna put in Kat. And this might be an unpopular opinion, but the reason why I'm putting Kat as 5th, and this is probably the only negative thing I'm gonna say, is that her character from certain seasons changed quite a bit and I didn't like it too much. Like in the first season, Kat was someone who was goofy, but she wasn't like completely, I don't want to say stupid, but she wasn't completely dumbed down to the point that it was so painfully obvious in the later seasons. Like she was goofy, but she also kind of had her own thoughts and mindset. Yes, she was still chaotic and did a lot of chaotic choices, but I felt like the show just kind of changed her character in the later seasons. She even dropped the catchphrases that she normally says, like, what's that supposed to mean from the Amanda show? And I thought that was quite a funny thing, but then they just dropped it. And I also felt like they purposely wanted her voice to be higher pitched and more sort of invasive, I think that's the word, or in your face. So I felt like she became slightly more aggressive in terms of her chaotic nature, which isn't a terrible thing. I just feel like they should have stuck with the original sort of personality for Kat, where she still has her moments where she's goofy, but she also has her moments where you can also see that she isn't just, someone that can't make good choices. Because later in the show, you do see her make some questionable things. Like, I remember that one episode where they were trapped in a shop because they wanted to get an early sale. And there's obviously traps and lasers. And then Kat just runs through it. And I just thought that was just so out of place. Like, they really made her seem like she couldn't even tell that there was traps right in front of her, which was a bit odd. But other than that, Kat's a really good character, and Ariana Grande did the character well. Like her music, whenever she got to sing, because the show barely made her sing, because they knew her voice was so overpowering and she would just overpower the other cast members. I felt like they just purposely reduced even her vocal ability in the show. But when she was able to sing, she could sing, and she always sang well and sang bops. I wish she had more solo performances. Again, I know they weren't gonna give her one because they didn't want her to outshine the main character, but if they did, it would have been great to see, because even in duets that she did with Jade and Tori, they were bangers. Like the song LA Boys would have been a smash hit if it wasn't on Victorious. Like if it was more targeted to a mainstream type of audience, that would definitely have blown up. It was the right song for the era. It was like we were heading towards like the late 2010s or mid 2010s. Like that song definitely would have been a hit. And her song as well with Jade and Freak the Freak Out, Saga, was again a banger. So she did her part well, so I have nothing else to complain about. Now the next one is gonna be a bit controversial, I think, or it might not be, because I was honestly stuck between these two. So I've got Jade here, and then I've also got Tori, and for the while I was thinking of where each one should go, and here's why. So Jade and Tori are two people that I think both deserve as much recognition as the other. Now Jade gets a lot of hate, which doesn't make sense. Not Jade, Tori gets a lot of hate that just doesn't make sense. And I feel like a lot of it is just sheep mentality, because if you really think about it, Tori did not do as much bad things as people said that she did compared to Jade. Like, everyone mentions the pilot episode, and I just find it so irrelevant because, first of all, Jade and Tori weren't even friends. Jade poured coffee and humiliated her on her first day of school just because she overreacted and saw Tori wiping Beck's shirt. Tori didn't even know Beck had a flipping girlfriend at the time. So even if she did flirt with Beck, everything was on Beck's hands to tell Tori that he was taken. But he didn't even say anything. And even with the improv scene, Beck could have said, let's not, and that probably would have saved their relationship earlier on. I feel like a lot of the reasons why Jade never really liked Tori for a long time was because of the pilot episode, and because she always felt like Tori was someone that she needed to be intimidated of, because Beck knows that Jade is quite insecure about other girls and Tori was a threat. Now, Beck could have done the noble thing and just not fueled any potential beef, but he didn't. He probably wanted Jade to get jealous. I don't know, maybe it's his fetish or something, but the pilot episode is just irrelevant to me. Tori kissing her ex who was dating Kat was pretty bad. Like, whichever angle you want to take it. Yes, she may have had feelings for him, but she still moved to a guy that was dating her best friend, and Kat was someone who would have been understanding if it made her uncomfortable. But again, like people always bring that up, but Kat still got her comeuppance. Tori told Kat to punch her in the face, and Tori said that's the worst thing she's ever done. And she hasn't done anything, in my opinion, as bad as that. The only other thing that she did was host her prom the same time Jade did. So those two accounts are really the major things that she's done where she took an L. But if we look at Jade, like I said, humiliated her on her first day out of a complete misunderstanding. And she also sabotaged Tori donating blood to Robbie, which could have killed her. But people seem to overlook that. There's the difference between being a mean girl and then being a straight up potential murderer. So yeah, I don't think she deserves as much hate as she gets. And people are saying that she can't sing, but people seem to forget that she has bops and she can sing. Just because her voice isn't as vocally empowering as like Ariana Grande or even Elizabeth Gillis doesn't mean her voice is bad. Like, people are capping if they say that her voice sucks, because like everyone wants to have selective memory, but I know for a fact that people were definitely bopping to Best Friend's Brother, Freak the Freak Out, LA Boys. Which other song did she make? There was this one song she made, I forgot. It was like some revenge song. I guess that guy that was playing with her. But that song was also a bop. I just forgot the name. But she's had some bangers. Like, some of my favorite songs from the show came from Tori and her own solo performances. Even Make It in America was a nice song. So for people to say that she doesn't have bangers is a lie. But the only reason I think Jade will be above Tori is because Jade dropped You Don't Know Me, and that's my favorite song of the whole show. Like, I listened to that song so much even after the show ended. Like, that song was such a masterpiece, and every time Jade sang, I just found her voice to be very soothing and connected to it the most. Plus, her personality was very good. Like, yeah, she was mean, but she also carried the show in her own way. Like, she delivered on her character. Although sometimes it was annoying. Like, sometimes the way she acted towards Tori was a bit much. Like, yeah, we get it. But other than that, she was her own character. Because unlike Beck, she wasn't just Beck's girlfriend. She was Jade West. She was someone that you could separate from the relationship. And she stood out. And she also had her own character development. Like, from season 1 towards where the show ended off, like, you see that she's much nicer to Tori and to her other friends overall. And she's definitely mellowed down. Even in her relationship with Beck, it improved. Even though it was very toxic, like, she did work on the relationship more than Beck did. Like, when Tori and Beck were on their not date, Jade tells both of them that she wasn't mad that they're together after seeing them together. And season 1, Jade would never have reacted like that. So I think Jade is someone that does deserve her spot as third because of that. And yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. The second best character, I'm gonna make this nice and sweet, simple, is Trina. Now, I'm always a fan of underdog characters, and Trina was an underdog. She was someone who was made to be presented as a person without talent. And I thought that was great, because we see so many people in the show just come up with some different talents. And then we have the sister of the main character, who's like meant to be almost polar opposites. Like, she's more confident in her own right. She was genuinely funny, and she was meant or made to be talentless, but she carried herself in such a way that she did have talent. Like, she didn't care if people didn't like the way she sang or the way she acted. She just had so much self-confidence in herself, and I respect that so much. Like, Trina was just so funny. Like, I love Trina. I love people like Trina that just don't let anyone else tell them that they ain't made for anything. She just ignored everyone and just kept doing what she was doing. She was really just chasing the bag. So I'm proud of Trina. Then first place is Andre. Andre was just like, honestly, the best character. I'm not even surprised that his grandma is S tier. Like, these two really just made the show. Mwah. And Andre was such an underrated character. Like, he didn't even get his own solos, but every time he performed with Tori, like, he just dropped hits. Like 365 Days, Tell Me That You Love Me. Like, those are one of my favorite songs in the whole show. His character overall was great. I feel like because he was so underrated, it made his character stand out more, because he wasn't pushed in such great lengths. But when he was there, he was just a great support. Like, he was a great friend for everyone. He was just an overall very supportive guy. Even Jade didn't have anything bad to say about Andre, and he had his own storylines and his own sort of motivations. He wanted to be a singer, songwriter. He wanted to be taken seriously. Like, his arc was very touching. So yeah, that's my tier list. If you agreed with it, that's great. If you had some disagreements, that's all well and good. I know the Tori haters ain't gonna like where I put Tori, but I don't care. And yeah, it's gonna be it from me.